Hello, and welcome along to the stream tonight. So, let's have a little bit of a recap. For those of you who have been following along, I think I haven't been doing a stream for 2 weeks, I think it is now. So basically, thank you very much, Maurice, for the subscription there. It's telling me that you've been subscribed for 5 months. Thank you very much. So the last couple of weeks, I've basically been ill. I don't know what was wrong with me, I'll be honest. I had a cold, I had a cough, and when I've been trying to talk and stand-ups and things, I just kept on coughing all over the place. So it wouldn't have made for good entertainment for anyone. So I opted to not do the streams. And I'm feeling better now, though. So I thought I'll come back today and see how we got on. And in all likelihood, there will be a stream on Friday, this coming Friday at lunchtime. And then there'll be a week for being no streams. So the reason for that is I am heading out to a conference in Orlando. So I won't be around to do the stream. So that's the thought process there. Now, as for tonight, and what we're going to be looking at is we're going to be doing a little bit of a change. So before being ill, I was concentrating on things to do with cake.recipe and including new features and getting pull requests and things added into cake.recipe. So I thought I would change it up a little bit and look at this thing called Chocolatey GUI, or as some people say we should have called it, GUI Chocolatey. Now, the reason that I am going to look at this is because I've been doing a little bit of work on it at work. So recently there's been a need on the business side of Chocolatey to have some business features for Chocolatey GUI. Now, in order to incorporate those business features into Chocolatey GUI, I've been having to make some changes to Chocolatey GUI itself, like the open source version, to accommodate those changes. One of those was to enable strong naming of Chocolatey GUI. So the outputs of Chocolatey GUI builds are now a couple of assemblies, and those assemblies are now strong named where they weren't before. Now, in order to get the strong naming to work, that was an interesting saga. But I have to say a big thanks to Jan, or Punker76 on Twitter. He helped me out a lot getting Chocolatey GUI to build and produce strong named outputs. So a huge thank you to Jan for that. But the reason that I wanted to play with this is because there's been a couple of interesting pull requests that have come in from the community, and I wanted to get those pulled in as soon as possible. So the first one that I wanted to look at was this enabling of key bindings for navigating sources. So before we get into it, I wanted to kind of show what Chocolatey GUI is for people that are maybe not familiar with it. So if we spin up Chocolatey GUI, can you share what the strong name does? Sure, I can try. Oh, now you're asking. So let's start here. So let's answer that question first. Oh, I don't have I don't have .peak installed. That's annoying. Let's do choco install .peak. So strong naming is a way to identify or uniquely identify an assembly. Now, that's important because when you add a reference to an assembly in a project, if it's got a strong name, then the reference to that assembly will include the strong name identifier, the public key token for that assembly. Now, what that means is that if for some reason the reference assembly were to be manipulated or mutated, then it would no longer have the same strong name key, right? So the reference assembly wouldn't be loaded properly into your executing project. So it's a way of, it's a protection mechanism, really. It's a way to uniquely identify your assembly so that other people can rely on it having that. Now, all of the other parts of Chocolatey, so Chocolatey licensed, Chocolatey services, all of those things have a strong name key. So the only one in the kind of the tool chain was Chocolatey GUI that didn't have a strong name key. So the way that I can kind of show you that, if we come out of this and stop debugging, then if we look at, say, this Chocolatey GUI project, and we unload the project, and we edit it. So if we look at some of the references that we've got in here, then say this autofac reference, then it has a public key token of this. So it's the public representation of the strong name key that was used to strong name sign that assembly when it was generated. So the folks over autofac, they strong name signed it with that public key token. In the same way the automapper strong name signs it with that one, etc. Now, some assemblies, like for instance this one, controls EX, it didn't have a strong name key, so its public key token was null. In short, a sort of checksum for your assembly. Maurice, I'm not sure if that's... Maybe? I mean, I don't know the technical details of it, but what I was trying to install there was a little application called .peak. So .peak is a... it's not going to let me... It's maybe not... I don't think it's got a... No, I don't think it had a shim. .peak is a .NET decompiler. It allows you to look at an assembly and kind of read more information or get more information about it. That's unfortunate that it's not created a shim, and I don't actually know where it's installed to. So let's have a look here and say .peak. No. Is it JetBrains product? No. So I'll look here then. .peak JetBrains. Where did it install to? Don't know. We can come back to that. But is it a checksum? Hello, Kim. Welcome along to the stream. But the long and the short of it is that some assemblies in the .NET ecosystem are strong named, others aren't. There's a big religious debate about whether they should be strong named or whether they shouldn't. But in terms of what we're trying to achieve with the Chocolatey GUI for Business version, we wanted the ability to essentially uniquely identify the Chocolatey GUI assemblies. So we wanted to opt in, or we wanted to apply strong naming to the Chocolatey GUI assemblies. Now, that meant the issue that when you start to strong name your project, any dependencies that you take in the project also have to be strong named. And that kind of, it leads to this vicious cycle of, if your dependencies aren't strong named, then you have to kind of jump through hoops to strong name it yourself in order to include it in your project. Now, I was lucky with Chocolatey GUI that by updating some of these references, so by updating controls EX, by updating MatApps, and updating MarkDig to the latest versions, I was able to get a strong named dependency. There was one reference that was left that wasn't strong named, so I had to do some magic by strong naming that assembly myself and then re-including it in the project. So the end result of all of that is that the assemblies that are generated as part of the build of Chocolatey GUI are now strong named, and that's great because that's what I had. That was my goal for that day at work. So I was able to do that. Now, like I say, one of the PRs that's open in Chocolatey GUI is this ability to add key bindings for navigating sources. So this is one that I was quite interested in getting pulled in. So what I've done before the stream started is I have pulled that, or I've taken a clone. I haven't even done that. I've added a remote to this person who is known as Huff Samuel, and I've got his code locally on my machine now. So the first thing that I noticed is that because of the work that I did recently on Chocolatey GUI, his PR is out of date. So the first thing I wanted to do was I wanted to rebase this on the head of the develop branch so that we can continue looking at it. So that was a painless rebase. So we now should be up to date, and we have a branch that's coming off of the head of the develop, which we do. And then if I go into Chocolatey GUI and run it, what we should see is pretty cool, I have to say. I played with that a little bit just before the stream, just to see if it worked, and that didn't build. Why is that not build? No. Can't find... Why would it not be able to find that? Okay, let's build here to get it. So one of the changes that I made was that Chocolatey GUI build now works in the same way as Chocolatey does. So it doesn't have the solution info.cs file generated by default in the repository. So you have to run the cake build at least once in order to generate that solution info.cs file, and then you'll be able to build it out of Visual Studio. So hopefully that should have fixed that issue, which it has. Right. Hello Stevie, how's it going? We are just looking at some Chocolatey GUI stuff. So this is Chocolatey GUI. So for those of you who are not familiar with it, Chocolatey GUI is a user interface that sits on top of the command line Chocolatey application. So by default it has this list view of things, but you can switch over to a tile view and you'll get lots of icons, much more like a gallery kind of application. Now, Chocolatey inherently has the concept of multiple sources. So down the left-hand side here, we are showing the equivalent of what Chocolatey would tell us. So if we do Chocolatey source list, then we'll see that we have 1, 2, 3 sources available. So that's what Chocolatey GUI is showing us. We've got the local PC, so it's what's installed on my PC. Then we've got our sources, which are Chocolatey. I've got a local one, which is just pointing at a local packages folder. And then I've got a myget feed, which has got one package in it, which is Chocolatey GUI. So I can flip between these sources just by left-clicking on them. But the thing that this PR adds is the ability for me to hold down Control and then hit, for example, 2, which takes me to the second source, and it navigates to that source. And I can go Control 3, I can go Control 4, 1, 2, and so on. So it's basically, yeah, there is a bunch of outdated software. This is my development PC, so I'm not going to claim to have everything up to date. There's quite a bit out of date, actually, isn't there? I should probably update some of these. But the eagle eyes amongst you will have noticed, and Maurice has kind of already touched on it. I've got no space left on this PC. I've got like 300 megabytes left, and if we go down to the command line or go into the desktop, we'll see that it's time for me to refresh this VM because the base VM is out of date. So I need to so all of that should go away when I rebuild my PC. Disk almost full. A break in kit.recipe, I see. Well, Kim, were you talking about the output that you saw, or what break in kit.recipe were you referring to? But he does not have any disk space to update. Oh, that's a very good point. Yes, I do. Anyway, so Chocolatey GUI, this navigation now allows me to do this, which I think is pretty cool. I like the idea of being able to navigate those sources like that. And the way that he's created this PR, so if we go back and have a look in here. Yes, so Kim, so previous stream I worked on kit.recipe, so maybe just before you came in, what I said was that I'm going to be here for this week, but I'm going to be out next week because I'm away at a conference. So I figured what I would do was I would kind of jump into Chocolatey GUI for today and Friday, and then once I get back from my trip, I'm going to circle back around to kick the recipe, because I noticed that you'd sent in a couple of PRs to kick the recipe for some stuff, so I was going to hold on to them for the next stream. So the way that this person implemented this functionality was to include kind of pre-baked commands for control +1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. So the thought process was that in terms of keyboard bindings, you have 9 numbers along the top of the keyboard. 0 obviously doesn't really count. But if I do control 1, 2, 3, 4, but then I do 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, nothing will happen because I don't have any of those sources available. So I think it's quite essentially a clever way of doing it. So it's not trying to be clever in terms of allowing 10, 11, 12, that sort of thing. But I think 1 through 9 is a good starting point, and then we can build on it from there if there's additional need for it. But I like the control key as the modifier, and it's similar to what you can do with, say, Windows 1, 2, and 3. So I'm just hitting the Windows key and pressing Windows 1 to get to the first thing that's in my taskbar. In the same way I can go Windows 4 to get back to Visual Studio. It's very similar to that. So I really like it, and I want to get this merged in. So I don't, from a technical point of view, I looked at the PR, and there's a new relay command that's being used specifically for handling the action that's being passed into it. So I didn't see any problems with that. It's really using the existing functionality in terms of navigating to the actual source. It's just triggering that, and there's some logic into whether or not you can go to the source based on the index of it. So before, when I pressed Control 5, there's nothing for it to do, and it knows that because there's ones there. Next would be Control arrow. Control up or down? Maybes. So if I were on the last one, if I hit Control down, it would wrap around and take me back to the top. I don't know. Maybe. But I mean, there are other things on here. I mean, I haven't implemented any of these, but obviously you could have an action around navigating, going to the settings screen, going to the about screen, navigating the tabs. So there's lots of keyboard bindings that we could start to add in. I think this navigation of the sources is really just the start of it. But it's certainly a good starter, I think. So the only thing I think I was concerned about from a PR point of view was that the AppVeyor build failed. So let's have a look and see what happened with the AppVeyor build and see if it's anything we need to worry about. So hello, Veronique. Absolutely we are. So yes, we are using MatApps because MatApps is amazing. I was just saying at the start of the stream that Jan, I don't really know how to say his last name, but I'm going to say Krager. Jan Krager been a long-time contributor to Chocolatey GUI. And as the maintainer and creator of MatApps, he is my go-to person for anything WPF related. So he worked with me last week to make some changes to Chocolatey GUI to bring in the latest version of MatApps so that we are on the latest and greatest. So no, we absolutely are. We're using pretty much... where can I show? So over here. Oh, what? Oh, my machine's shutting down for some reason. What I was going to show there was that we're using like the MatApps dialog for pop-up prompts for when we want to take an action. I would dearly love to have showed you that. But we're all going to get to sit here and wait for that progress indicator to get to 100, unfortunately. So, I don't really know what else to say. I've completely been thrown a little bit. But what we're going to do once this comes back, we're going to figure out we're going to look at the AppVeyor build, find out why the PR build failed, and correct anything that needs to be corrected there. And then one thing that I did want to enable that's not done in this PR is I want to have a feature that enables or disables keyboard bindings, because not everyone will want to use them, and it may interfere with other things that they have on their system. So I want a top-level feature, which will probably enable by default, but I want to be able to switch off keyboard bindings so that they don't have any effect. I guess we know where the next... let's not even joke that it's going to take an hour, Kim. It's going to be really quick, hopefully, to do this reboot. And that's the VM. That's the VM that is currently rebooting, unfortunately. So my host machine, the one that this mic is going into, is still up. But the VM is currently doing a Windows update. So now you get to see behind the scenes a little bit. So here's my PowerShell session that I did a Vagrant up on earlier. And did that say shutting down, or did that say rebooting? Let's have a little look here and see. I think it said shutting down, didn't it? I think it said shutting down. It says powered off. So let's do let's try and bring it back up. Let's see if we can bring it back up and see what happens. Because yeah, you can see it here that the base box that I've got is also out of date. So there's a brand new one. This one, sorry. There's a brand new one ready to be updated to as well. So my base Vagrant box needs to be updated too. So all of that's going to happen when I come back from my trip. Because it's not going to be this week. It was too long ago that I think that's a big part of it, because I haven't done anything for these 2 weeks. I haven't seen that this was going to be happening, and the VM is punishing me now. Love it. So it's so interesting story on that. So on my Mac, I'm now no longer using VirtualBox, because VirtualBox and the new Mac updates just don't get along at all. So I've now switched from the VMware VirtualBox provider for Vagrant to the VMware provider for Vagrant. Now that comes with its own problems, because the VMware provider isn't free, whereas the VirtualBox one is. So I had to stump up a bit of cash to pay for that. But I'm happy to say that it's been rock solid. I've not had any problems with the VMware provider compared to the VirtualBox one. The VirtualBox one it was a hard crash. Like my Mac just went away. When intermittently I would hear a little fast spin of the fan, and screens would just go black out of nowhere. It would just go black. But I'm happy to say that I haven't seen that happen at all since switching to the VMware provider. So yeah, that was fun. But we're getting there. 67. No, 79. Hopefully it won't take too much longer. And then where will we get? We were going to check the AppVeyor build for Chocolatey. I guess I could do that over on. Let's bring Chrome up on my other machine while we're waiting. Let's bring Chrome up here. So let's see if we can figure out why that AppVer build. Chocolatey, GUI. And let's have a look at the pull requests and look at the key bindings. So I guess we can make this a little bit bigger. And I will bring this down here while it's doing some stuff. And we can go. Oh, I'm not signed in. Hold on a second. Sign in. Where's my authenticator code? Authenticator code is. There we go. Okay. So we're back up here, and let's look at this one. So this is where I'd literally clicked on that link, and then my VM went away. So let's have a look and see what failed. Huh. Looks like there's a syntax error. But that's... No, that can't be right. Because I ran it. It's still on my list, Maurice. Don't worry. I'm going to do it. I need to make the jump at some point. Why is that saying that? Invalid expression throw. That makes no sense. That makes no sense at all. Because... Oh, unless it was a... No. Use and share compilation. Blah blah blah. Invalid expression term throw. Then it's saying it's missing. These are syntax errors. But unless there was a force push. Was there a force push to this PR? There's one commit there. That's very strange. I'm at 93% by the way, so I'm almost there. Let's wait until the VM comes back up and then let's have a look and see if we can see any. There's not even a throw, is there? Oh. I wonder. I think I know what the issue is. I'm not sure that the version of MS Build that's being used here will support the, I want to say the null coalescing operator, but I could be wrong that that's what that is. But I think that's what the issue is. So, no, I don't think so, Maurice. I think the issue is that it's this PR. So when it's running out of Visual Studio can do some MS Build magic to allow some of the newer C# syntax to be used within Visual Studio. But then when we defer out of Visual Studio to the actual build through Cake, we pin to a specific version of MS Build, so that MS Build magic doesn't happen anymore. And I think that this operator, I want to call it the null coalescing operator. Let's just look it up. Operator.net. What's it called? Blah blah. Oh, it is the null coalescing operator. So it came along in. When did it come along? Tell me what version of C# it came in. I'm not going to be able to find it. But I think that's the... exactly, Kim. Oh no, I see what you're saying. You're saying the opposite of what I said. But I think we're on the same page, though. but it's also to do with the fact that Chocolatey GUI is pinned, or it only runs in .NET 4.5, or it targets .NET 4.5. So some of the newer language features we can't take advantage of because we're not the base class library is not there. It was added in C#7. Thank you very much. So I suspect that that's the issue. So we'll just have to change that. I'll have to change that code a little bit. Otherwise, it won't work. So let's do that first of all. So let's get back into Visual Studio, and we will change away from using a null coalesce operator. You probably now have disk space. Oh, maybe. Let's have a look. Let's have a look. Dun, dun, dun. Got a little bit more. Yes, we do. So let's go back to Chocolatey GUI. We do have a little bit more disk space. But what I was going to show Veronique before I was rudely interrupted by a forced Windows update was... Let's run this again. Come on, we're so close. We're so close. I was complaining earlier when I opened this solution because I don't have Wix installed, because Chocolatey GUI creates an MSI installer using Wix, and I don't have the Wix toolset installed on this machine. So the Wix project file was complaining. So I'm wondering if that's what's causing it to be slow and opening again. 100% CU. Slow to launch indeed, Christoph. It's getting there though. It's getting there. Do you? I think so. It is VS, but it's the new shiny Visual Studio 2019, so I mean it's meant to be. Look, projects are loaded and ready to use. Background tasks still running. Oh, interesting. I've not seen that one. But circling all the way back, so cast your minds back before we did the forced Windows updates, and the question was asked as to whether we're using MATApps for this application, and the answer was yes, we are. And Jan did a PR recently, as recently as Wednesday or Thursday of last week, to pull in the latest version of MATApps, the pre-release version of MATApps, that has some interesting new features in it. There were some breaking changes in the version of MATApps that we were using, so Jan went through the process of fixing all of those breaking changes for us in Chocolatey GUI, and as a result, we've now got the latest and greatest stuff. So MATApps is being used for the theme that we're using here, and if we look at things like the settings screen and we say purge outdated, and we get the modal dialogues that have the nice user interface in terms of asking if you're sure, that sort of stuff. What else are we using MATApps for? MATApps is handling all of these things, I think, as well, in terms of the checkboxes that we have. We're using the icon packs that come with MATApps, or another package that is MATApps for all the icons, etc. So we're using it throughout. It's a great library. Definitely recommended to use it. So let's go back and figure out why that, or what's causing, or let's get rid of that null coalescing operator. So if we go back here and have a search for search for it. I think there should be only one. That's in cake. That's why it's allowed to be used there. Maybe it's not. So that's something I know that Jan is working on. That's a kind of a common issue, let's say. Interesting. I'm using the null coalescing operator elsewhere in this code base. So I don't think it's specifically that issue. Let's have a look at that error report again. So now I can bring it up here. I mean, yeah, I'm not going to claim to be good at doing documentation either, but I know that Jan is, because of the breaking changes that came along, he's in the process of updating some of the MATApp documentation. Now, what I will say, just because he helped me out a lot, let's put a shout out, a proper shout out for him. So this is Jan here. He is on the GitHub sponsors list, let's say. So if you're interested in helping him out and sponsoring him, you'll see that I'm a sponsor of Jan here. Definitely click the button and help out Jan and give him some money towards the project. I'm sure he would be grateful for anything that you could provide. What I was going to check was Chocolatey GUI. Kim saying the null coalescing operator was added before it supported. Oh, is that the distinction? Let's have a look. That's a... I think you're right. It was specifically got you. Okay. So if we search again then for that and throw new, then there'll be only one instance of that, which is the new relay command. So we could say let's just do it the old-fashioned way and say then if execute equals null, let's just put our guard clause in, and we'll say throw new, just copy this here. And Marisa's saying, about that, I just got an email about sponsoring. You need to fill out the form. Specifically for Jan or for the GitHub sponsors in general? So now we can take this out. Boom. Okay. So having made that change, so if we look again at what AppBear was complaining about. So the AppBear build was here. And as a sanity check, they have enabled the feature for me to push changes into that branch, so I'll be able to do that. So if we look down at the errors, then it is all... Oh no, there's one in the shell view model as well. So what was it changing in the shell view model? Ooh, interesting. You should definitely set that up. You should definitely set that up. I think GitHub is still doing the matching. They were going to do that for the first year. So any contributions that you get, they were going to match the contributions. So definitely worth signing up for that. So what am I complaining about here? 156. 126. Oh, you see, that's not going to work either, is it? That's that's newer syntax too, so that's not going to work. That's annoying. So obj is int. Obj is int. We might have to do this the old-fashioned way. What's the See? I had a feeling. What is... I could cast it, but that's not guaranteed, so technically it should be a convert. Or can I use as? Var source index. Or is it the implicit variable name that is causing the issue? Can I use is? So help me out here, Kim. Obj is int, is that allowed? And then it's just the inclusion of the implicit parameter variable as the additional parameter to that was C#7? Or source index is equal. Yeah, so source index is we need to do that. Okay, so let's do that. So if obj is int, source var source index equals int of obj, and then we could say return do this then cut return that, otherwise return false. I think. So he's doing it here too. How many times are you doing that? Is it just in this view model? It is. How are you doing that? Var source index equals obj as int, nullable, return source index not equal to 0. I mean, I have no objections to that. Let's put them side by side, and we'll have a wee look. I'm going to copy that, am I? Copy. Paste. Oh, it did work. So then we've got return source index not equal to null, and source index equal to 0, and source index plus or equal to count. I like that. Because it means we don't have to do that either. So we could do something similar here for this then, because we would need to know the same thing. That's an object as well. So let's do this. And then we could say if source index not equal to null, then that's those there. What are you complaining about? So that would need, because we made a nullable int, we would need to give that a value. If not equal to null and source index dot has value, I'm okay with that, I think. So I think then is int. Now we're no longer using it. So let's see if it's still working. Let's see if we haven't broken anything. And I think that will fix the @var issues that we were saying. Build. Go back to here. And it was all in and around. Yeah. So it was the relay command and the shell view model that was causing problems. I think we've fixed both of those. So let's make sure it's still working. So Chocolatey GUI loads, and then we can do Control-2. It's not working. It's not working. I did something. Oh, it did there. Control-3. It's a bit slower than it was before, but I think that's just Chocolatey GUI doing its outdated thing. So then 4, and then as we click back through them, so then 1, 2, 3, 4, and we do a 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So I haven't broken anything, and it's still working. Okay, so Kim's saying that he thought that that's a separate issue. I saw that before. So you're saying if it's just not null, I don't need the has value. Okay, I'm willing to accept that. Okay, so if we go back to here. I lost my PowerShell prompt. Let's get it back open. Let's make it smaller so that you can see it above my head, which is there. So cd into c GitHub organizations Chocolatey GUI, and let's just have a look at Git extensions so that we can see what we've changed. And all of this is about, you also have well, would that not be the same? So what's better? What's better? Or what do we prefer? Has value or not equal to null? Since it is a nullable int, yes, if it has a value, it can't be null. So I guess both of those would work. So we could say index.has value, and I'm not sure I have a preference either. Dot has value. Let's put it in and we'll see if it still works. And then it has value has more meaning, I guess. Because in order to have a value, it's not a null, it can't be null because it has to have a value. So I think I prefer that. So let's just make sure that it's still functioning. So just wait for this to finish this time to list out all my outdated software. And then we'll be able to do Control-4. That still gets me to here. and then Control 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, don't do anything. Control 1 takes me back to there. Control 4, Control 1, love it. Okay, so all of this was in an attempt to fix GH513. That one's been tagged as GH513, which is good. So then my commit message here, I don't really need that one. That cake file being created was as a result of me Control C'ing out the process. So that's us. We've gone away from using the throw as a result of the null coalescing operator, and then we've changed away from using the is int and then explicitly adding the variable as the next parameter. So we're going to say GH513 remove newer C# syntax. This isn't available in older versions of the .NET, which Chocolatey GUI is still targeting. So let's put this in there. How do I spell targeting? 1T. Chocolatey is spelled right. Actually. Right, commit that. And then, okay, that. And then I'm going to push that to, what was it called? It's not called Hush, was it? Huff. Hush? Huff. I was close. Git push. Oh, I rebased. So that's going to be a -F. Yep. So it's yellow because I did a rebase on the latest develop, and I've also added a new commit. So if we walk back up to this pull request, and we refresh, then we should hopefully have 2 commits, which we do. And then let's have a little check of, let's just close that and go to this one. And let's see what AppVeyor is telling us now. So I'm hopeful that this will now pass the build. If it does, I'm going to go ahead and merge this. So assuming that all of this works, the other thing that I want to do is I want to add a feature toggle to allow keyboard bindings to be turned off. I'll enable it by default, but I want the ability to switch it off, because not everyone's going to want to use the keyboard bindings. And what I'm going to want to do is I'm going to go into the settings screen here, and I'm going to add a new Chocolatey GUI feature, which is to allow turning off keyboard bindings. And then we will respect the current state of that feature when it comes to actually doing an operation. So let's wait and see what happens with the AppVeyor build. So any questions from anyone in the chat about anything that we're doing? Oh, I know what that is. That's fine. Just don't call it keyboard off. Love it. No, let's not do that. What it will mean, though, is that if I go ahead and add that feature in, then I am going to need some additional translations to be done, because I will be adding in the English version of the text that goes into Chocolatey GUI, but I will be calling on some of the people in this chat to translate it into their respective languages via transifex. So if you could do that, that would be great. I'm looking currently at Kim, and I'm looking currently at Maurice, and anyone else who in the chat room who is also helping out with the translations of Chocolatey GUI, which is much appreciated because I don't know any other languages apart from English, so I rely heavily on folks who do. Does Klingon count? If you want to translate into Klingon, then hold on, I'm gonna have to look it up now. Transifex. No, it can't be, right? It can't be. But let's have a look. Transifex. Does it give me a list of languages? Might have to log in. Hold on. I don't remember my login. Hold on. Pull this back down here. That would be awesome if it did. Copy. Paste. No. So currently we have language support for quite a few languages. But how do I add a new one in? Can I add a new one? Edit languages? Here we go. Add a language. Let's have a look. No, there's no Klingons TV. I tried for you, I did. But no, it's not there. But I know pirating. No. But if anybody wants to help out, then we have a number of languages added. If your language isn't here and you want it to be here, then definitely you can put a request in, and then as part of the build process that Chocolatey GUI uses, it pulls down the translations every time the build runs on App Harbor, App Bear. And that's all thanks to Kim's cake.transifex add-in that's currently being used to facilitate that. Where? It wasn't there. I went to edit languages. I searched for it. Nah, Klingon's not there. Or what's the shortcode for it? Update the page. No, you didn't do that. You didn't. Did you? Notifications. I'm not seeing it. Not seeing it. Maybe it's going to take a while to come through, but I'm not seeing it yet, Kim. Oh, hold on. Join requests. Oh, Christoph. Is this you, Christoph? I'm going to go with that being this. I'm going to go with that being you. I'm going to say accepted. Thank you very much, Christoph. Perfect. Thank you very much. Yeah, I'm not seeing the notifications. So Stevie has to do this now. French. No, still nothing yet. We'll come back to it because the app fair build has completed. So if I come back to here and we've now got greens. Priorities, man. Priorities. No, I'm still waiting for that. So I'm going to say that I am going to say approve this. Looks good to me. I'm going to say submit. And I'm going to say... Why is it not coming through? Copy, clipboard, paste. Oh, I see. Awesome. Where did you find that? Because I couldn't see it. But that's awesome. If anybody wants to take that on, feel free. Right, I'm going to go ahead and merge this pull request. For merge. And I'm going to say to Huff, I'm going to say PRT. I'm going to say comment. Show more? Hold on. Let's go back. Languages. Edit languages. I don't have to show more, but maybe it doesn't show in this dialogue then. Don't know. Anyway, so we've done that. Okay, so now what we need to do, just type one more time. Edit languages. Okay. Oh, show more. Hold on. Oh. Oh, look at that. So is that where the pirate comes in then? There's no words. There's no words. It's good to know, though. It's good to know. Right. Anyway. What was I doing? Right. Yes. Settings. Right. So, if we have a look in the... Oh, I see. Format till it's all changed. So... Do note that these won't work on the .NET platform, though, without some serious customizations. Oh, because of the character set, you mean? Well, for Klingon, anyway? Or something else? Oh, I see what you mean. Yes, you would. In order for it to switch. I get you. I'm not expecting anyone to come back into, I'll be honest. But you never know. Right, so what I now need to do is I need to remember where the code lives for adding a new feature. And we're going to add in a new feature, which is to enable and disable the this one here. So controls whether or not anonymous controls. Which one can I search for? Show additional source. Let's just search for that. So let's show additional start here. Find all. So here. Show additional source combining all sources is this one. So if I then search for that and see where that is used, then in here. Okay. So this is where the this is the overall configuration class for Chocolatey GUI. So the way that Chocolatey GUI works, when you toggle one of those switches left or right, or you change one of the configuration parameters in Chocolatey GUI, it all gets persisted down into a LightDB database, and it does that by serializing an instance of this app configuration class. So what we're going to want to do is we're going to want to add a new property to this class, and this is going to be a public bool, which is going to be, it says custom or being done through a different library. Sorry, I'm confused by the question. I'm trying to remember what I was talking about when that came through. Custom or being done through a different library. Come back to me on that one, Kim, if I can elaborate. So I'm going to say this is going to be called enable, or let's maybe call it in the set. So use keyboard bindings, we'll call it. Okay, set that. And this is going to be a feature. So we'll add an attribute that makes it a feature, and we'll call it the localized description is going to be settings view toggle use keyboard bindings. Is it custom logic for the app configuration class to persist storage and to show it in the GUI or something, or using a different library that handles all of that? So it's let me find it. Blah blah blah. Configuration service is in here. So it's literally here. It's all done through the LightDB. LightDB has a NuGet package that exposes the LightDB config, and all we're doing is we're passing in an instance of that app config. So when we update the settings, we are taking the settings, so the instance of the app configuration, and we are inserting or updating it directly into the database that is the LightDB instance. So it's not, I mean, there's a little bit of custom logic there, but it's all handled through the LightDB NuGet package that we're using. And the LightDB database is also handles all of the icons in Chocolatey GUI. So all of the icons that are downloaded and displayed within Chocolatey GUI, they're all persisted into the LightDB database as well. So it's all in one place. So that's that, and we were going to call this the settings toggle use keyboard bindings. Yep. So let's copy that. Then let's go into the common project here and look for the SX. Yeah, I mean, it's everything. So it was Richard Simpson, one of the contributors to Chocolatey GUI, who added the usage of LightDB, but everything I've seen of it, it's just worked. So I'm quite happy with it. So I'm going to put this in here, and this is what's going to be displayed. So this is going to be what's displayed. So what we want to do, oh, you are. Look at you, Maurice. Look at you. So are you going to switch away from using Patreon to doing everything through GitHub sponsors, or are you going to have both? What sort of text do we want to show here? We want to say allows keyboard bindings to be used to navigate not really navigate, is it? It's to interact with different areas of the Chocolatey GUI user interface. Do I put a dot at the end? Yes, I do. Allows keyboard bindings to be used to interact with different areas of the Chocolatey GUI interface. Perfect. Yeah, I don't disagree. I was just curious what your thoughts were. So then when I was looking for this, there should be somewhere in here where we default that. So where's that done? I think it's in here. Get settings. It's here, look. So what I want to do is I want to say use keyboard bindings, and I want that to be true by default. Now that won't work here because it's already there, but that's fine. So now if we spin this up, let's see if we have that additional feature in the UI, which you should have. So that's the Stripe verification that will take a week. So if we look at our settings now, we should have a new one here that is use keyboard bindings. Look at that. Allows keyboard bindings to be used to interact with different areas of the Chocolatey GUI user interface. So if we come back to here, then obviously that's still going to work because we haven't actually used that feature yet. We haven't done anything with it yet. So now we need to add in usage of that feature and then to be able to control whether it goes on or off. So if we have a look at where some of the other ones are used, so for example, this show console output, then we'll see how it's being used. So we can borrow some of this, because this will be similar. Because that's in the XAML, but that's not where we are just now. We're going to be in the shell view model, I think is where we're going to do it. Because if we go back to shell view model here, then the code that was added in was can go to source. So that was the code that we added. Oh no, it was the relay command. So let's see where we're going to make. Let's see. Remind myself about the code that was added. and we'll try and see where would be a good opportunity to put this in. So, oh, that was what was added in specifically. So we can use that one. So this key binding was being mapped specifically to the go to source command. So we can use that one. So the can go to source is that. So should we put this directly in here then? So is this, have we got a config service? We do. So where did the, probably lost it. It's here. So we can say if not config service dot get app configuration dot use keyboard bindings, then we immediately say return false, regardless of what else is going on. If we're not using keyboard bindings, we have to return false. So regardless of what else is going on, we immediately return false. So if we spin this up, then it should still work. But then if we change the value, then it should stop working, he says. But we may need to add in... Oh no, I think we'll be okay. I think we'll be okay. So right now, if I do Control 4, it should navigate to local, which it does. Let's just wait for this to finish. So Control 1 will take me back to the PC, Control 4 will take me to there. If I now go to settings, and I switch this guy off, and I go back to here, then if I do Control 1, it doesn't work. Control 1, Control 2, Control 3, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, doesn't work. So if I go back over here and put this on again, back to settings, Control 1, Control 4, Control 2, haha, look at that. Love it. Could be only one return, right? So I'm assuming the question was with regard to this. It could be. The point here is that if this is not the case, then it's an immediate return. So I don't have to do this as int, not as nullable, blah, 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 blah. So rather than having to do this additional processing, if that value is immediately null, then this statement doesn't need to be executed. So there's a concept of an earliest possible return. So in this case, the earliest possible return is to simply say, if we're not using keyboard bindings, then it doesn't matter about any of the other processing. So you could do it as a single return, but personally I think this is a little bit cleaner. So I think that's it. I think that was easier than I thought it was going to be. So the only other thing that I wanted to mention, in case folks on this haven't seen it, is if we now go to, let's close this, and what's this? We go here and say, I'm gonna ship it. I'm gonna open folder. If we go into, I'll need to switch out of this branch before we, but if I go into source, and then I go into Chocolatey GUI CLI, its bin folder, and I look in its debug folder, and then I look for Chocolatey GUI, Where did it go? There we go. So now if I run Chocolatey GUI CLI, and let's clean this up a bit. So if I run Chocolatey GUI CLI, which is a standalone application that sits next to Chocolatey GUI, then this gives me command line access to the features that are contained within Chocolatey GUI. So if I do Chocolatey GUI CLI with the feature list command, then it will list out all of the features that are available, including the new use keyboard bindings one. So in the same way that in Chocolatey you can do Chocolatey feature enable or disable, I can do Chocolatey GUI feature enable. I can't spell. Enable name equals. Let's take that guy. So that's not going to work obviously because it's already enabled. But I can do disable. So now it's disabled that, and if we go back to the feature list, we'll see that that's no longer ticked. And if we go back over here and we re-enable that, and do enable here, and do the list one more time, then we'll see that it's enabled. Now, the whole point in this, having the Chocolatey GUI CLI is to allow initial setup of Chocolatey GUI. So when you install Chocolatey GUI onto your machine, you may have a preference as to whether you have enabled or disabled some of these features or the configuration. So in the same way that there's a Chocolatey feature, there's also a Chocolatey config, because there's one configuration option, which is the outdated packages cache duration in minutes configuration property. I named that. I made that name up. So it's currently defaulting to 60 minutes. So after 60 minutes, the outdated packages cache will be blown away and then recreated. So all of this configuration settings are now available at the command line. So you can script out the installation of Chocolatey GUI, including all of the features and configuration that you want to set up. So Kim saying, nice, would help configuring GUI on new systems. Yeah, exactly. It was a feature request that came from one of our customers originally, and it was something that we added in. So I have unashamedly stolen the Chocolatey code that does all of that in Chocolatey, and I've added it into Chocolatey GUI. Now, so you joke, but there's an interesting story there. So originally, I had Chocolatey GUI working as both a CLI app and a GUI. Now, and that worked, right? Because now when you install, oh my goodness, are you taking the mick? I think it's because I've got an unlicensed version that it's starting to do a shutdown every hour or so, because that's timed about right. I really need to rebuild this system. Let's do a vagrant up again. Vagrant up. So when I had Chocolatey GUI being both a CLI and a GUI, it worked, with the exception of when it came round to creating the shim for the Chocolatey GUI package, because the shim would either be for a GUI app or for a non-GUI app, but you couldn't have it doing both scenarios. So that's why I ended up with both Chocolatey GUI and Chocolatey GUI CLI. Exactly what Kim just said in the chat rooms. So it worked, but it didn't work, which was unfortunate. But that's why I've had to do what I've done here. Which is not perfect, but now if you install the Chocolatey GUI pre-release version from MyGet, you get shims for both Chocolatey GUI and for Chocolatey GUI CLI. So both are immediately available from the command line. It's just that they're not one application, which is what I was originally gunning for. Make this a little bit bigger. And indeed, Inception. Yeah. So you use Chocolatey to install Chocolatey GUI. Chocolatey GUI then gives you Chocolatey GUI and Chocolatey GUI CLI. Two separate shims. One for the... Can you make the shim pass in an argument, Kim? I'm just thinking out loud here now. Because that could have worked if I could have passed an argument as part of the creation of the shim. Let's make this. I've not tried that either, so that's why it's... Okay, so as long as it won't be chewy. Okay, so getting back to where we were. I'm not going to be on for another hour, so that shouldn't happen again. We shouldn't have another shutdown. But now, if we go back to our repository, so C, GitHub, organizations, Chocolatey, oh, that's cake. Chocolatey GUI, do a git checkout on develop. That's going to need to be what? That's unfortunate. Okay, fine. Let's fix it up. So this is going to be related to the original issue, which was GH513, but we've added a setting for it. So let's open up Git extensions, and we will let's make sure that we've got all the right things in here. So yes, we did a bunch of things. What's that done? I don't recall changing that. Reset that change. Now, so, oh, look at that. That was a fast 1 week. So I'm going to add in all of these changes, and I'm going to say GH513, add setting to control usage of key bindings. Add setting to control, add setting, that's annoying, of control to allow, add setting to toggle usage of key binding. Yeah, that's fine. There we go. Not all folks are going to want to use key bindings in the application, so allow key bindings, I can't type, bindings to be turned off. Default will be for key bindings to be enabled within the application. Okay. Sounds good. Application commit. Okay, so now we go over here check out, develop, get fetch upstream, get rebase upstream, develop, get push origin, I'll come back to your question in a second, Kim. I don't. And then we're going to do a little bit of a cheat and say get cherry pick 662 5854. Beautiful. Get push upstream. Get push origin. Get branch minus D feature. That one. Yes, I'm really sure I want to delete it. Leave it alone. Okay. So the question from Kim was, GitHub approval. Oh, sorry. GitHub approval can take up to 2 weeks. If those 2 weeks are as fast as the Stripe one, it will be available this evening. I hope so, Kim. I hope so, Maurice. One question: what would happen if you used Alt GR plus number? Hold on. Are you throwing a spanner in the works here, Kim? I think that's what you're trying to do. Let's find out, shall we? Yep. Let's find out. Open project solution. Oh, sure. It's right there. Right here. Let's have a look. And then the last thing I wanted to do this evening was there's another PR that I've not looked at or reviewed at all. But it was attempting to allow the installation of multiple packages at the same time in Chocolatey GUI. Something that's been a long sought after piece of functionality. So I at least want to spin that up to see what that does. Even just to see what it looks like. Because it's something that I've put some thought into how it would look, but never tried it. So let's just see what happens with this. Build started. Running. Come on. Chocolatey. Okay. So if we do a control 4, then did I leave it turned on or off? Leave it turned on or off? It is on. Control 4. Oh, it is working. Thought I'd broken it there. So the question is, what will happen if I do Control Alt 1? Control Alt 1. nothing. Control Alt 2, Control 1. Okay. Control Alt 4, nothing. Alt GR 1, Alt GR 4. Doesn't do anything. So they don't do anything. That's not to say that they couldn't do something, but they don't do anything for this. Okay, perfect. That still works. Beautiful. Okay. So, the last thing I wanted to look at, like I say, even just to see what it does, was to look at another PR. GitHub /Chocolatey/Chocolatey GUI. And then let's actually just check the CI build, make sure that I didn't break anything with that kind of impromptu commit that I did there. That's the wrong project. If we go up to here and look at Chocolatey and look at Chocolatey GUI, then it's building. Okay, that's fine. So the PR, the other PR was this one, which is PR 702. So git fetch upstream pull 702 head PR 702. Good night, buddies. I hope we have a good one. Okay, check out PR 702. Now let's see what this does. Thank you for coming along this evening, buddies, obviously. It's always nice to have you here. It's always nice to have you here too, Stevie. I did see you were still in the chat room. I just got my pretty chart data working as expected. Good stuff. We're going to have a chat about Universal Dashboard at some point. It's definitely been on my list of things to look at. Right, so if we look at what this does, so if we go to Chocolatey, then I believe what they were attempting to do was they were attempting to enable multiple selections. So is that interesting? So that wasn't possible before. So that's something that they've enabled. So what happens if we go to tile view? Does that also allow me to do multiple selections? It does. Okay. So how will we test this? So let's do a couple of easy packages. So I'm going to say Firefox and Putty. Right? So I've selected Firefox and Putty. If I right click and I say, so details shouldn't take me anywhere. Oh yes, absolutely. So Matthias is in the chat room as well. Hello, Matthias. So the details link shouldn't work. See, that's wrong. That would need to. I think that was mentioned in the PR. No, it wasn't. Or I thought No, I thought that was mentioned in the. Okay, so let's try this. So we've still got Mozilla and Putty selected. So if I right click and say install, what's that going to do? It's attempting the installation of Firefox. Doing some stuff. Doing some stuff. Just drop the ring. Pick that up again, it's okay. Oh, disk space. Oh, hold on. Hold on, Stevie. Good shout. Oh, we're okay. Firefox is no more than a gig, right? So Firefox is doing its thing. So will it then install Putty? Therein lies a question. And I will come back to your point regarding clicking the details on Putty, because I'm curious about that answer as well, Kim. So that didn't work. So it allows the selections, but it doesn't actually, because Putty hasn't been installed, has it? No. So what did the code actually do then? Let's have a look. That's white space. Change the selection to be extended from single, and then added a new handler for selection changed. Added selected items. Added some. Changed a bunch of. Yeah, this didn't actually do anything. Yeah, this doesn't actually. It doesn't do anything. No, I agree. Okay. It is still a start. But, I mean, when I was thinking about this, I was thinking more along the lines of almost like another option which would, because let me preface this again. So this is currently showing me a list of the first page of 143 items, right? When it came to installing multiple things at the same time, I was more inclined to say, right, I want CC Cleaner, so I would be right-click, add to waiting list. Then I would scroll down and I would find the next one that I wanted, and I would say, right-click, add to waiting list. And then I would maybe come up here and I would search for a specific package, and I would say, add to waiting list. And, oh, that's maybe what you're saying in the chat, Kim, there, sorry. And then when you say install waiting list, it then runs through and installs them all in a oneer. That was how I was envisioning doing the installing of multiple packages. So what are our collective thoughts on that? Add to install our list. So Kim seems to be on the same page. Control A. No. Oh man. Control A works. No, we don't want that. We definitely don't want that. Especially on my machine that's only got 1 gig of space left. But if we do the selection in the other way, so we did Firefox and we did Putty. If we right click on Putty and go to details, then yeah, I would envision it would take me to there. That's why I envisioned it. Control A delete. No. Stevie's saying select them, names to an array, pass the array to Chocolatey. So yes. But I do like the idea of building up a list. So it's like right click, add to list, right click, add to list, right click, add to list, and then list, install all. Add to queue sounds reasonable. Yes. I don't know what the terminology is, but I think that would be better suited. So it would leave the grid as a single selection, which would mean that the details, the pin operations would all continue to function as is. But it would add another one, which is add to waiting list, add to waiting list, add to waiting list, install all, boom, off we go. So I think that's I'll need feedback, some comments on that one. The other thing that I've been thinking about is add to install queue. Yep. There would be a new icon in the top right hand corner that shows up when you add to the queue. So you're talking like up in here. Yes. I mean, what I was sort of envisioning was clicking it takes you to the queue and then see and interact with you. What I was kind of envisioning was maybe something on this right hand side. So the first time you said add to queue, it would pop out something that would kind of sit in this right hand queue and it would just have the name of the package. And then you would add, you could then add and remove items from the list in this UI, and then at the bottom there would be a button that just says process list. A split would be better. Oh, here we go. Let's just explode the feature. No, we could do that. So when I mean it comes out, so I would envision that the thing that I would envision coming out here would be something that you could minimize and collapse. Yes, so it would kind of pop out, and then it might go away. If you kind of told it to go away, it might be an auto hide or an auto show. But that's obviously some thought process. Drag and drop. There's no reason that it couldn't be done. But that's, I guess we have to account for a UI that works also when it's in list view. So we need to be able to right click add to list here. So we need to figure out how that works. There's also the concept of whether the selected item includes information about the source, because obviously I could go into here and say right click add to list from a different source, so that information would need to flow through into what gets added to the list as well. Kim saying a split is pretty much what you're talking about, splitting the view between the list of packages and the list of the queue. I think we're talking about the same thing. Yeah. The other thing that I've been thinking about, and we'd be good to get some thoughts on this, is right now we've got a right click install, or we've got a double click take you through the details page. We did have a double click, and then we've got an install. What we need is an install advanced feature, and the install advanced feature would pop up a dialog that says what are the installation arguments that you want to pass in, what are the package parameters you want to pass in, what are the additional arguments like install arguments, etc., that you want to pass into that Chocolatey command. Because right now there's no concept of doing anything like that. That would lead to I was just thinking about package version. I don't really want to. No, because then we allow that through the all version, so we don't need to do that one. But we would want to be able to, any arguments you can pass into Chocolatey, we want to provide a user interface that's not too busy to allow it to handle that. Now, if we go down that route and we have right click add to waiting list, I don't necessarily think I want to add to waiting list with installation parameters. I kind of see those as separate, but I could see why people might want them to be also be the same as well. So there's lots to think about in that area, but it's also one of these. It's a common ask that you can say right click install and then also provide installation parameters. So if anybody wants to take a stab at that, Now, I was just thinking it there as well. So this, I'll need to provide some feedback on this PR. The other one I wanted to look at, as I haven't actually played with it yet, is Kim's PR. Is this one functional, Kim? Does it work? I've never actually taken it for a spin. So this was 637. Oh, look at this. I'm going to get checkout, develop. What did I say it was? 637. 637. 637. 637. No, I wasn't going to rebase it. I was just going to try it as is. Git checkout PR 637. Just curious to see what it was doing. Okay, I think this would be a good ad as well. So this PR, for those of you who are not familiar with it, this was the concept here was to provide the ability to change the localized version of Chocolatey GUI rather than having it tied to the system defined language. So you'd be able to hot swap it to German or to French or to whichever ones are available. Change it during runtime. That's a good way of putting it. But yeah, even just the project structure, has completely changed since this PR was created. So it might take a little bit of work to get it up to it. But I'm assuming it's going to be in the settings. Ooh, it's a selected language, look. So selected language has... Oh, that was one of the things that was outstanding, wasn't it? It doesn't know what they are. And also, this probably won't work because I don't have the resexes locally. Yeah, I seem to remember us talking about that at the time. But I seem to recall that there is a cake task for fetching. Oh, I won't have the environment variable set up, so I won't be able to fetch the additional resexes. Yeah, there's only one, so I'll need to play with that a little bit. But let me have a look at the UI again and see how that looks. I might take a stab at doing this at some point as well. We'll go back to the settings. Oh, I need to think about how we can... I need to have a think about how we would do this through the Chocolatey GUI CLI, because this would be a configuration option, not a feature. So we need to allow the setting of that through Chocolatey GUI CLI as well. Okay. Things to think about. The other thing that I wanted to mention it'll be the last thing I mention, is the work that Jan did to pull us up to the latest version of MAAP's Metro means that he said he should quite quickly be able to enable a dark mode feature for Chocolatey GUI. So it's been another common request. So what we have just now will be the default light theme, and we will have the option of selecting a dark theme. Oh, I just lost that info.cs file again. It's curious that it does that. So there will be another feature to toggle on or off the dark theme for Chocolatey GUI. So that'll be an interesting one to see as well. I'm not going to have anything to do with that whatsoever because I don't have an eye for aesthetics when it comes to anything like that. So Jan said he was going to be having a play with that. So that'll be an interesting one to keep an eye out for as well. So let's just let that create the solution info.cs file. Kill it again. And I think that's all I had. So, unless there was any questions about anything, I think I'm going to call it and say that that is a good place to stop. Got done what I wanted to do tonight, which was pulling in that keyboard bindings. And that opens up the potential for adding additional keyboard bindings for other actions within Chocolatey GUI, in addition to the navigating of the sources. And yeah. Hold on, what? Is this safe for work, Stevie? You want me to Google the incorrect spelling of color and picker? Color picker. Mind blown. Color picker. Is this what I'm looking over? Oh, as in it telling you all the different information. Oh, I see. I don't have it installed, but do I have it on this one? I have on this one. One of the listing here is quite useful as well. Color picker. Not so much that one. What's this one? Page color. You can hover over colors on the page, and it'll give you the RGB value as well. So if there was something specifically that you wanted on the page, you can steal it from there too. That's the one that I normally use. So it's incredibly useful for finding out what's going on a page. It's the one I use. But yeah. What's it called? It's called Colorzilla? Colorzilla. That's the one that I use. But yes, I think I'd seen similar to this, yes. Yeah, there's so many little things. There's so many little things like this built into Google. It's like the one that obviously is 100 GBP to USD is the one that kind of always just does it in line, and then you get this straight away. So there's so many little things like that make you lazy, I guess is what it comes down to. But yeah. Anyway, that's all I've got. Apologies for the 2 system reboots that we had during the evening. That's totally my bad. I just need to fix it. That'll be feet to meter. Yeah, that's 100 feet to, well, English or US, but let's go with this one. Yeah, exact same thing. So easy to do. I will probably not get round to fixing my base VM before Friday, but I intend to have a stream on Friday. After that, I will be out for a week because I am attending a conference, so I won't be doing a stream. But yeah, that's it. So thank you all for coming along tonight and participating in the stream. I had a bit of fun tonight. Got a feature out the door, which I'm happy with. Yeah, I'm going to say that's it. Thank you for coming. Bye-bye.